Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Tristan Thomas with Men Sourcing, and in today's video what we're going to do is help you understand a little bit more about the FAT and a PLT that is on a request for quote from the DLA. Now FAT stands for first article test and the PLT stands for a production lot test. But what we're finding is many of our clients are really unsure exactly what both of these terms mean, and they see it as a CLIN, but how do we request it from our vendors? And if we do win an award, how do we make sure that we're providing it to the DLA as they're requesting? So we're going to make sure that we answer all of those questions for you in this video. Now, before we do get started, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to this channel, as our goal is to help you win your first government contract. And for those ones that have already won their first government contract, we're here to help you make sure that you deliver it correctly to the DLA. So please do hit that subscribe button as we produce these videos at least once per week. Okay, so now let's dive into what is an FAT, what is a PLT. That's what we'll be going over in this video. Now, first off, what are we going to talk about? Well, we're gonna go over the pain points of both the FAT and the PLT, and really what we want to make sure that we're diving into is what is the FAT, what is the PLT, what do they actually mean? We see that they're on the CLIN of a RFQ, but what does that actually mean? Right, and also, where do I request these, or how do I request these? Both of those questions will be answered. Why is this important? Why is it that some government contracts will request an FAT, others won't? And the same thing with a PLT. We'll dive into that a little bit. Also, how do I bid when a RFQ has an FAT or a PLT? Many times people get the delivery dates incorrect when they're doing the submission, and that actually can ensure that you do not win the award. Because if your delivery date is far further than it actually would be, then the government sees this as, well, why would we take this company over another company that can get it to us sooner? So we'll show you how to accurately bid with an FAT or a PLT. Also, how do I flow down to the vendor or the manufacturer? That is a big thing because there's different types of reports that need to be created, and the RFQ typically will tell you what report that is. Really, the goal here is, to summarize, is that we're helping you bid on these solicitations that have an FAT or a PLT. We want to make sure that you complete the contract as required, right? Win more government contracts by having this as part of your arsenal, okay? So first off, let's dive into what is an FAT. Well, first and foremost, we need to know what an FAT stands for. Sometimes it's regarded as the FAT or FAT or just first article test. And what this is doing is it's ensuring that the initial sample of the product that you're going to deliver to the government meets specific requirements before you produce the entire lot or the entire mass production of the item. Okay, so think about it as a quality check from the DLA side. Key aspects here is when you are going to be submitting an FAT, they're requesting a small quantity. Usually it's about 2 or 3 pieces. Sometimes I've seen 5, sometimes I've seen as little as 1. But the government is requesting that you provide them a specific sample quantity that meets the contract specs. What they'll do then is they'll test and evaluate those samples to make sure that those items meet the requirements of the contract. From there, excuse me, let me take a step back. And what we need to do is we need to give the DLA the FAT report, so the first article test report, certifications, but also the samples. And lastly, upon testing, the DLA will provide an approval letter. So I'll go over, I will show you an example of an approval letter as well. Next thing here is, now let's talk about the PLT. Well, PLT stands for production lot test. What this does is it's ensuring that the product from a specific production lot meets the contract specs, right? Sounds kind of similar to that of a first article test, but think about it this way. Each mass production of an item is a lot. So all the material, raw material, whatever it might be, is used to create a lot of that item. The production lot test is looking at that specific lot to make sure that they meet specific requirements. Whereas a first article test is, let's just say that they make multiple lots, but it's made the same way, then that would be part of a first article test. Small difference, but a big difference in the eyes of the DLA. So the key aspects of a production lot test: random samples are taken from that production lot that you're going to provide to the DLA, and what they're going to do is, again, they're going to test and they're going to evaluate it, and then they want to make sure that it meets specific requirements. Just like with the FAT, we need to provide them with the samples, a detailed PLT report, which is slightly different than that of an FAT report, and certifications. Then they'll go through the testing, and then they provide you an approval letter. Once that approval letter is done, then you can take that total quantity that you want to submit to the government and ship it out. But you need that production lot test if there's a requirement on that contract to complete. But that needs to be done first. So let's just say that you're going to submit a bid. right? And that bid has an FAT or a PLT, or maybe it has both. Well, what's the order? Do I submit the entire lot first? Am I submitting the PLT first, the FAT? Let's go over exactly the order of operations here. The first thing that you need to do is you need to submit the FAT. So the FAT must be submitted before anything else. So you're submitting the samples, you're submitting the reports, certificates, and you ship it off to wherever they're stating that you need to ship it to. Then you're going to wait for the approval of that first article. Sometimes it's as little as 30 days, but we've actually even seen that it can take up to 180 days before a first article test is approved, right? We're talking 6 months potentially, right? So that's going to take a lot of people out of the game. They don't want to wait 180 days for an FAT approval. But once the FAT is approved or possibly disapproved, you're going to get a letter from the government. If, knock on wood, hopefully the FAT is approved. If it is approved, they give you the letter saying that you can proceed to the next phase. Now, if an FAT is approved and there was also a PLT on that contract, well then you need to submit the PLT. So FAT goes first, then the PLT comes second. Your wait time is roughly the same, 30 to 180 days. Then you'll get a notice that the PLT is either approved or disapproved, right? From there, once both the FAT and the PLT are approved, then you can provide the rest of the CLINs. So the rest of the CLINs can be provided as per whatever the contract is. Okay. Now, if your contract, or excuse me, your RFQ has an FAT, no PLT, and then the other CLINs, you would just submit the FAT, finish that off, then you submit the rest of the CLINs. If there is no FAT, but there is a PLT, well then you just go down to the PLT, submit the PLT, get that approved, and then you do the rest of the CLINs. So order of operations, FAT always goes first, then PLT, then the CLINs. Okay. So let's look at real quick a contract that has an FAT and a PLT, right? So now this is a contract that I found through DIBBS. So this contract right here, scrolling down right here, if I continue to go down, I'd read all the information on here. First thing that I noticed here is it says that there's a first article approval. Contractor testing is required, which means I know that there is going to be a first article. And right here it says that the contract shall test 1 unit, sometimes that says 2, 3, 5, whatever, of this specific item. All right, that's what you need to know. If I continue to scroll down, it also says right here, production lot testing. So that production lot testing also is on this, okay? So I can continue to go down. It's giving you all this information about exactly how is that FAT and the PLT report submitted, what is the type of document that's going to be done. All of this information must be read. But if you're just doing an RFQ, all you got to know is that, okay, this contract has an FAT and it has a PLT. Perfect. Right? Okay, so right here we have line item number 1 saying that they're going to need 39 pieces of this item. Okay, packaging needs to be done in accordance with ASTM, so we know it's not Mill Standard 2073. But before we can do line item number 1, we need to move down to line item number 2, and we see that there is a contractor first article test that is here, which means to us that we need to submit a first article test before we can complete CLIN number 1. Right? Now, one thing that I do want to say is on the FAT and the PLT, they will always show a quantity of 1. That does not mean that it's 1 sample. That means that it is 1 test report that you are going to submit. Now, the quantity might be different. Okay, so just know it's just 1 test report that is going to be done. Now, with a production lot test, this needs to be done too, right? And the quantity here is 1, meaning that there's 1 test report that is needing to be submitted here. Now the next thing is, well, what do we do when we want to bid on this contract? Well, there are certain steps that you need to follow. When sending out your RFQ, so this is to your vendor, to your manufacturer, you need to first request for the pricing for the quantity that is being asked. So in that case, from that contract, we're looking at 39. So I'm going to request for 39, but also I'm going to let them know exactly, hey, this is going to need an FAT and also a PLT. So I'm going to request pricing for both an FAT and a PLT. Also, I need to make sure that my vendor and my manufacturer will provide me a report. Some manufacturers and vendors do not provide a report, so it is imperative that you make sure that you're able to get these reports, okay? And typically the cost of these can be anywhere from $1,000 to $3,500. I've seen upwards of $4,500, but that's more the exception than the rule. So you go to your vendor, you go to your manufacturer, and you request the price for the quantity and FAT and PLT. Then, when you're placing the bid, you need to place it in a specific manner. The first thing is, remember, there's an order of operations here. The FAT is submitted first, then the PLT, then the quantity, the rest, right? So what we want to do is we want to take the lead time to deliver the FAT. So let's just say that the manufacturer says it takes 200 days to get you the parts. I'm going to put in the delivery days as 200 for the FAT. Then from there, I'm going to now put in 14 days afterwards to deliver the PLT. So I'm not going to do 200 plus 200, right? Because then that'd be 400 days to deliver the PLT. I'm going to say, hey, 200 days to deliver the FAT. Then DLA, when you approve the FAT, it will take me 14 days to deliver the PLT. Maybe 21 days, 28 days, whatever long it'll take you to deliver the PLT, right? Then from there, once the PLT is delivered, then you need to give them the delivery days of how long it'll take you to give the rest of the quantity. In our case, we do it at least 14 days. It gives us a little bit of a gap. Usually within 5 to 10 days, we can get it out to the government, but we under promise, over deliver. So we do 14 days and then 14 days forward. So from here, what do we do? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to bid on this item and show you exactly how I enter it inside of the system, okay? So I'm inside of DIBBS right now. I've already logged in. I'm gonna put that solicitation number here. That solicitation number is right here. Okay, so this is the item. All right, so I'm gonna bid on this one. It's going to bring me to this screen, the input quote, so we want to be able to do this. So I'm just going to make up numbers here, but yes, it means packaging requirements, no discount terms, it's net 30. This quote is valid for 30 days. Where are we going to be sending this from? Or excuse me, where's the FOB point? So our location is in Los Angeles. Who's going to be doing the inspection? The inspection is done at our location. I haven't made a video on this one yet, but we'll talk about that in a future video. Since the inspection is at origin, it's going to be at our location, so I put in my gauge code. Now when it comes to the pricing and the delivery, so I'm just going to make up a number here, and let's just say it's $10. Well, because I don't want to win this contract, because it's just an example. Let's just say the unit price is $100 each. Now typically what people do is, because this is the line item number 1, they're going to put 200 days here, but that's incorrect. Right? Unless it takes 200 days after the PLT is approved, then I would put that here. But in my case, I'm going to now, remember, contract first article is first, so let's just say it's $2,500, and it's going to take us 210 days to get those parts. Then from there, it's going to cost to provide them a production lot, $2,500. Then I put 14 days, because the FAT is first. Once that's approved, then from there, 14 more days to give the PLT. Then from there, once that's approved, I can provide line item number 1 in 14 days. Mostly, a lot of people I see put this, but what you're telling the government here is that it's going to take 200 days to deliver the first article. Then after that's approved, 200 more days for the PLT. Then when that's approved, 200 more days to do the CLIN. That's incorrect. Scroll down, exact item, just making this up here, and then I would then press the submit. So that's the way that it works with this. So what to do if you are awarded the contract? So let's just say that one theoretically we do win. You need to send out your purchase order, right, to your vendor or your manufacturer. You want to write down in the purchase order the line item of the quantity, line item of the FAT, and line item of the PLT. Make sure you have all 3 separated and let them know that there is an FAT report needed and a PLT. Also, the contract is going to show you how many samples you need for the FAT and the PLT. Do that accordingly. But really what you want to do is when you do send out the purchase order, talk to your vendor, talk to your manufacturer, and work with them. You want to make sure that you're providing them the contract. It's all public information anyway. The tech documents, if you're JC and they are JCP certified, and any flow downs that the contract states, but work with them to make sure that you're doing this correctly. Now in this video, what we've done is we've gone over what an FAT and a PLT is. Hopefully it's giving you more insight of a first article test as well as a production lot test. Maybe made it less scary for many of those that are wanting to bid on these contracts. But go to your manufacturers, go to your vendors, and before you bid on these contracts, make sure that they can create those. If they can, then you've just won up the competition, because many companies out there do not do contracts that have an FAT or a PLT. So if you're bidding on these, you have a higher probability of winning. All right. Now, my name is Tristan Thomas with Men Sourcing. Again, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to this channel as we provide these videos on a weekly basis. But we are here to help you any way possible. Please put your comments below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions. And you can always go to our website, which is www.mendsourcing.com. Go to the contact us and let's have a conversation. We're here to help you out. Okay? Thank you, and you have a great day.